Good morning, everybody. It's nice to see everybody. A happy Wednesday to you. I'd like to remind everybody to please silence your electronic devices. And if, Madam Secretary, would you please call the roll?
Ross?
Here.
Wostel?
Here.
Miller? Myers?
Here.
Cohen is excused. Bowles?
Here.
Clendenin?
Here.
Hurtek? Here. Maniscalco?
Here.
Kilton? Gray? Klug?
Here.
Stevens?
Here.
Slater?
Here.
Hartfield?
Here.
And Joseph.
Here.
You have a quorum, sir.
Thank you, and Commissioner Miller arrived while you were calling the roll. Okay, would you please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, everybody. Commissioner Miller, good morning. It's good to see you, and I just want to pass along on behalf of the board our condolences for the death of your father recently, and we hope that you and your family are doing okay. So you're very welcome. So, ladies and gentlemen, has everybody had an opportunity to review the minutes from our last meeting? And if so, is there a motion?
Second.
Wait a minute, okay. Wait a minute. Motion by Councilmember Clendenin. I think I heard him first. Who seconded?
Second.
Commissioner Bowles. Motion by Clendenin, second by Bowles. Any discussion or corrections to the minutes? If not, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? No nays. Minutes are adopted. I'm told we have nobody signed up for public comment. Therefore, we will move right into committee reports. And our first committee report will come from Chair Rick Fernandez, who's from our Citizens Advisory Committee. Do we have Mr. Fernandez online?
Mr. Fernandez is not online.
He is not online? Okay, well, we will skip and go to Ms. Harmony McGee from our TPO staff, and then we'll check and see if he's been able to log in. Good morning, Ms. McGee.
Good morning, Harmony McGee, TPO staff. In regards to today's action items, the Technical Advisory Committee recommended that the TPO Board approve the amendment to the fiscal year 2025 through 2029 Transportation Improvement Program. Before making this recommendation, the committee discussed the additional funding included in the amendment. One question raised was how the locations were selected for the proposed treatments. TPO staff explained that the locations were chosen to complete all the off-ramps in District 7. There were also questions about the overall effectiveness of wrong-way driver detection systems and whether the Selman Expressway has similar detection technology. Additionally, the Technical Advisory Committee recommended that the TPO Board support the annual certification of the Metropolitan Transportation Planning process. Community feedback was received from Barbara Fight via email, in which she expressed her support and desire for continued funding of the wrong-way detection systems. Additional emails included requests for assistance accessing the Brightline Station Area Study Survey and concerns that the survey was only being promoted on Instagram. TPO staff confirmed that the survey is being advertised through multiple channels and have followed up to ensure participants are able to access it. Public comments were also received on social media. On Facebook, Mike Lamarca requested a tip amendment to support public transit service between Wimauma and Tampa. Community members Carissa Arias, Jamison Shaw, and Henry Spells expressed strong support for the Brightline Station Area Study Survey, emphasizing their desire for a local station. Ran Roya also advocated for the station, requesting specific ADA accommodations such as grab bars and tactile strips. We also received comments on X in support of the Brightline Station Area Study Survey. Additionally, Daniel Johnson provided feedback on transit, suggesting that Hart build a centralized transit station near Himes Avenue and Hillsborough Avenue. On LinkedIn, Davita Franklin shared her excitement for the Brightline study. This concludes my report.
Thank you, Ms. McGee. Board members, are there any questions? Seeing none, has Mr. Fernandez been able to get online? Staff?
Mr. Fernandez is not online.
Very well, thank you. Dr. Wong, is there a member of your staff who might be able to present the report?
Yes, Chair. Sarah Caper, Hillsborough TPO, is prepared to give those.
Thank you, Ms. Capers.
Good morning. Sarah Caper, TPO staff, CAC staff liaison. The CAC met on May 7th and took action on 2 items: the annual certification of the Metropolitan Transportation Planning Process and the TIP Amendment Interstate Wrong-Way Detection Systems. TPO staff presented on the annual certification, including notable achievements, recommended actions, and lack of corrective actions. The CAC voted unanimously to recommend the board approve this item. TPO staff presented the TIP amendment agenda item. CAC members asked questions related to the maintenance cost, average response time, future design changes, and intoxicated drivers. The CAC voted unanimously to recommend the board approve the amendment. The CAC received 2 status reports: Introduction to the Fiscal Year 26 to 30 Transportation Improvement Program, and Introduction to the Fiscal Year 27 to 31 TPO Priority List. CAC members asked questions and provided TPO staff with topics for the May 21st workshop, which will focus on these 2 topics. Some of the items include canals, examples of how projects make it into the TIP, funding sources, impacts of Live Local, and which projects may have advanced to the design stage of preliminary engineering. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Caper. Board members, any questions? Seeing none, thank you very much. Board Secretary, I just want to make sure the record reflects Mayor Kilton arrived at 10:03 and Board Member Gray arrived at 10:06. They are present.
Yes, sir, I recorded it.
All righty, thank you. And so do we have a motion to approve the consent agenda? Motion by Councilmember Maniscalco, seconded by Mr. Hartfield. Any discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? No nays. The consent agenda is adopted. Next item is a TIP amendment, Interstate Wrong-Way Detection System, and our TPO staff member Elizabeth Watkins is here to explain. I see we've made a change here. Connor McDonald, are you going to present this item?
Yes, sir.
Okay, well, welcome and thank you. You have the floor.
Okay, thank you. I'm Connor Trejos McDonald, TPO staff. I'm here to present a TIP amendment on the Interstate Wrong-Way Detection System. Next slide, please. A little bit of a background. Wrong-way detection systems have the goal of improving roadway safety by implementing a system on various interstate ramps throughout Hillsborough. The next slide shows a quick video we can explain wrong-way detection systems a little bit more.
The Florida Department of Transportation addresses wrong-way driving as a key safety initiative within the state of Florida. Wrong-way driving occurs when drivers make an incorrect turn and travel against the normal flow of traffic, whether entering an interstate or traveling locally around town. These events often cause high-speed, head-on collisions with vehicles traveling in the correct direction that can result in fatal or serious injury crashes. FDOT has mainstreamed implementation of wrong-way driving countermeasures based on findings from a set of initial research projects. These mitigation efforts use intelligent transportation systems, or ITS, to detect wrong-way vehicles, as well as provide a variety of alerts. These projects include detection-based countermeasures, enhanced signage and markings, as well as the use of dynamic message signs to help inform drivers. The goal of these projects is to detect, alert, and deter these moves before a crash occurs. At project locations, the following signs and pavement markings have been installed at exit ramp intersections to help regulate movements. No right turn signs, no left turn, combination U-turn and left turn prohibition, do not enter, one way, and wrong way signs. Route shields placed at lanes approaching ramps, wrong way arrows, and reflective raised pavement markers convey proper lane guidance. FDOT is also implementing ways to provide transportation management centers with immediate alerts of wrong-way driving. Project locations focus on areas with higher likelihood for wrong-way driving to occur. Radar detectors and cameras are triggered when wrong-way driving occurs on an exit ramp, and 2 red LED highlighted wrong-way signs flash to alert the driver headed in the wrong direction. The system also captures images of the vehicle as it passes the sign and transmits an alert and pictures to transportation management centers and the Florida Highway Patrol. TMC operators and FHP staff respond to these alerts by advising nearby motorists through highway signs and mobilizing FHP troopers to intercept the vehicle. While wrong-way driving events on freeways tend to result in crashes of higher severity, wrong-way driving also occurs on non-freeway arterial roadways as well. To help address this, FDOT is exploring signing and pavement marking implementations for arterial roadways, including wrong-way arrow markings, various signage, and left turn dotted yellow guidelines. FDOT's initiative involves a combination of engineering countermeasures, educational outreach, and enforcement preparedness. As part of this activity, FDOT is developing technical solutions and spreading awareness, and working closely with the Florida Highway Patrol to target enforcement in areas where wrong-way driving persists. It is our goal that this wrong-way driving initiative will help save lives by minimizing wrong-way driving crashes and improving safety along Florida's roadways. Please visit fdot.tips/wrong-way for more information.
Thank you. We continue to the next slide. Thank you. So the Florida Design Manual requires that all freeway exit ramps must have at least 2 sets of at least static wrong-way signs. District 7 began implementing these systems in May of 2015, and between June of 2023 and 2024, there were 119 confirmed wrong-way incidents, it should say District 7. 91 of those 77 were incidents where the driver was able to turn around and correct without causing a crash. And the graphic here explains a little bit further on the wrong-way detection system. So at first there's an alert activation zone, followed by the correction zone, and further implementations further down the roadway. Next slide, please. So the 6 locations for this TIP amendment are I-4 eastbound and exit 6, I-75 northbound and exit 254, both northbound and southbound, and I-275 westbound and exit 41B. The details include forward-facing and rear-facing cameras and detectors, 2 sets of dynamic LED signs, and the system will activate the signs and notify the Traffic Management Center. Next slide, please. Here's an example photo of a wrong-way detection system in Hillsborough. Next slide, please. And the TIP amendment is coming for you as a major scope change, but there are some financial changes as well, moving $2 million from fiscal year 25 to 26, and adding design funds at approximately $28,000 in environmental in fiscal year 25. Next slide, please. So with that, the recommended action today is to approve by roll call vote the amendment to the fiscal year 25-29 Transportation Improvement Program, and I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Mr. McDonald. Are there questions, board members? Mr. Slater.
Just a few thoughts about the importance of these systems. We are in the process of constructing these systems on the Summit Expressway today. Over the course of my career, these wrong-way crashes are some of the most significant I have ever seen. We have a gate system on the east side of our expressway where we have our reversible system. Those gates are replaced several times a month because they continually get hit with people. And sometimes those gates have 2 and 3 gates. They'll get to the 3rd gate. I mean, people are going through these things the wrong way. So we're constantly looking at ways that we can clear that up. A lot of times these drivers are impaired, but sometimes they're just confused. We had it was not a wrong way driver, but we had a DUI arrest on our expressway a few weeks ago, doing 150 miles an hour at 2 o'clock in the morning. So just trying to put these systems in place will really, really help us. And then finally, I will add that if you have not been, on the backside of our office, we have a very, very large dog park. It's always used, and it's there because it's probably the only dog park that's in the shade. But that dog park is dedicated to Deputy Kotfila, who was a Hillsborough County Sheriff's employee who put himself between a wrong-way driver and a family and was killed. And so I applaud FDOT for moving forward with this technology. It's continual issue, and we need to just have it everywhere and raise some awareness around it.
Thank you. Board members, Councilmember Maniscalco.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, and everything that you said. You know, you mentioned a Hillsborough County deputy, and even the city of Tampa had Jesse Madsen, you know, a hero that put his life, you know, made the ultimate sacrifice. I remember there was a period there of significant crash after, I think it was a group of USF students, like Bush Boulevard and 275, right around there. I mean, it just seemed like, for whatever reason, in that time period. But anything that we can do to implement more safety measures, as you said, it could be an impaired driver, could be people are confused. I mean, I see some of the on-ramps and off-ramps, and I try to understand how could somebody make the mistake, but you see some of the designs, and we don't want to take that chance. There's too many incidences. You mentioned it in your report here, how many there were, but anything that we can do to make it safer, because again, you know, people are going very, very quickly on the interstate. You know, second decisions are confused, trying to get off this ramp, that whatever it is, but whatever we can do, you know, I want to be supportive of. Thank you.
Okay, Councilmember Hurtak.
Completely agree, but I just have I mean, obviously, it's wonderful that we're putting this together. I'm curious, do we have, I mean, not inebriation aside, for some of the others, do we have an age range, like an age of some of these wrong-way drivers? Does anyone have that data? Because I mean, I know we have quite a few people who are older who are still driving, and I didn't know if there's sort of any education that's being done through maybe AARP or some of the other elder groups to make sure that people understand some of this new signage. I think that might be a really good idea. That's really cheap. Education is the cheapest thing we can do. So maybe some videos or maybe reaching out to some elder community groups could be something that we could also do in addition to, you know, the funding to add them. Just want to put that thought in your ear.
Board Member Gray.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. You know, this remark comes to you, Mr. Slater, and we appreciate all the innovations. I just wonder if there's a way that we can have the sameness of each area, because it's eclectic. You know, one exit might be different than another, which may add to those drivers being confused. And, you know, if you're talking about senior citizens, I'm one of them, you know, the more things that are the same, the easier it is for me or, you know, those of us who are not inebriated or inebriated. But anyway, that would be my point, my recommendation.
And I think that's a really important point. You can't do it in just one location. You have to do it system-wide so that people are used to it. But that's what we're focused on, and we're actually using the FDOT system that they had designed through Cutter and some other groups. But so people will be used to a consistent system across all ownerships of the system.
Yeah, and I think that's key. So the design is standardized across the state. And as you saw there, so as we're implementing this in District 7, we've had a 77% reduction in wrong-way drivers. And so we can get the numbers. The answer to your question, yes, it is significant elderly, and we do education in that population. And We do have a lot of tourists in this area, so that's another thing. They're just, in general, confused. And unfortunately, the driving under the influence continues to be the king of all those reasons behind it, which is if we could stop that, which is why you'll see the LED flashing, why that's important. Because there's enough research that shows they react to that. So anyway, it's trying to find the proper stimuli to capture everybody. But the 77% reduction shows that the investment we've made is working, and we're trying to close the entire network. So we're down to I think less than a dozen locations that need this. So we're pretty close. So we feel really good about that.
Board members, questions? Commissioner Myers?
Yes. Thank you for the report. Do we have anything that alert law enforcement when we have the wrong way drivers that's up there?
Yes, ma'am. So with this system, there is an automatic alert that goes to the TMC, that goes to FHP and local law enforcement. And so far, I mean, that works really well. And that's what's led to some of the interdictions that have changed the outcome, but that's also what has led to some of the interdictions that have led to loss of life with the law enforcement officers. But yes, it does alert a law enforcement of where they are, where they're traveling, and then it puts the message on the DMS sign for other drivers to know, hey, you're driving in a corridor where there's a wrong way driver, like active a wrong way driver. So
Just maybe one thing to add too, as part of our connected vehicle program, during that pilot program, we had 4 or 5 wrong way drivers on the system. And when they hit the system, everybody with the connected vehicle technology got notified in their car that there was a wrong way driver on the system. So no matter where they were, and so ultimately, I think that type of technology can really help with that, with no matter what you're using, alerting people, hey, there's a wrong way driver on the system, do what you have to do to make yourself safe.
Councilmember Clendenin.
Just a quick question. So the technology is kind of like older kind of technology. Is there somebody, are you all working on AI? Because we have so many cameras everywhere on these interstates. You'd think that AI would be a great way to expand this in a less expensive way.
To answer your question, yes. So AI, camera-driven, they call it computer vision. We're using that. This is just one of many technologies. And this is really, I mean, if you think about it, this is kind of the last step. We have other technologies to try to help leading up to this, but this is like the last step, the last opportunity to try and either discourage the behavior or notify law enforcement. So this is really supposed to be the last step, and hopefully, in theory, if everything goes according to plan, they would never even hit this point. But if they do, this is kind of the last step.
Commissioner Bull.
You can leave it on.
Okay.
You can leave it on. Just a quick question regarding the alerts. When that happens, so according to the video, the car goes through, the flashing, and then it sends the signal, and then it kind of goes out. Is that signal like pre-programmed for that exit? So it says that essentially if I'm going, let's just use the Bush, or we're going on 275, does that then say to all law enforcement, or is there actually a person typing that in? Seconds matter in that particular case. I'm a big fan of minutes matter in first responder.
Yeah, so there's an automated alert based on the location, so it's an automated alert.
And that hits all the boards at the same time.
Correct. And then there's follow-up information based on the people that are watching the cameras to say, hey, now this person's moved to the outside lane, inside lane, like letting them know where they are in the.
So once they breach that final barrier and they're on the.
Yeah, that's an automated.
It shoots it out to everybody. There's no human factor in there. So
no, the human factor is where they are. And if they get back off, because sometimes they get on the wrong way, they realize they're going the wrong way, they don't realize that U-turn is a possibility, and then they get on the shoulder and they drive and get off at the next. So they share that information of what the behavior of the driver is.
I was just curious because I know that in our dispatch centers for like EMS and fire, and I'm not sure about City of Tampa, but for Hillsborough County, when you call 911, it goes to sheriff's office and then it reroutes to us. So there's like a 30, maybe 40-second delay, which is a problem.
Yep.
So 30 or 40 seconds, I mean, you could have death and destruction on there. Yes, but if it's automatic, that's what I just wanted.
It's automatic. And one thing a lot of people don't know, our Sun Guide, our TMC, is a shared, dispatch with FHP. So FHP sits in our building. So when it comes to us, it hits them automatically, but they also are watching the same cameras we're watching, so.
Okay, board members, if there are no other questions, is there a motion? Board Commissioner, Councilmember Maniscalco, a motion and a second by Mr. Stevens. Okay. Any discussion of the motion? If not, would you please call the roll vote?
Ross?
Yes.
Wostel?
Yes.
Miller?
Yes.
Myers?
Yes.
Bowles? Clendenin?
Yes.
Hurtek?
Yes.
Maniscalco?
Yes.
Kilton?
Yes.
Gray?
Yes.
Klug?
Yes.
Stevens?
Yes.
Slater? Hartfield?
Yes.
Joseph?
Yes.
Motion carries 15-0.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. Thank you, Connor. Next item is the Unified Planning Work Program Amendment, and Amber Simmons from our TPO staff is here to present. Good morning.
Thank you. Thank you. Good morning. I'm technology impaired this morning, I suppose. So my presentation is not quite as exciting, but it is the Unified Planning Routine Amendment. And we do have a brief presentation to bring up. Yes, that's perfect. In advance of here, right? Okay, thank you. Thank you. So this morning it is a routine Unified Planning Work Program amendment, which will be adding funds from a previous UPWP to the fiscal year 26 Unified Planning Work Program. We will also be removing some excess funds from a previously completed project. We will be adding $454,767 in consolidated planning grant or PL funds to fiscal year 26, which starts July 1st, 2025 and ends June 30th, 2026. We'll also be removing $12,000 in State Transportation Innovation Council funds from the completed project. Also, for your reading pleasure, we have included in your packet the Unified Planning Work Program fact sheet, which gives you a little more information about what that is and what amendments are, why they're used. But basically, the very brief version is the UPWP is the scope of work for the TPO and its budget. So the current consolidated planning grant for fiscal year 26 is $2,539,070. After the amendment, $2,993,867. There is no other changes in other funding other than adding the PL funds of $454,767. Open for questions, and our recommended action is to approve the Unified Planning Work Program amendment.
Thank you, Ms. Simmons. I have one quick question. So the 450, whatever it was, that's just carrying money over from one fiscal year to the next?
Yes, sir. So it was from the previous UPWP. So it was from the 23-24 UPWP,
Okay.
excess funds that weren't spent, and then we have the opportunity to use those towards projects
Okay.
in the fiscal year
So
26.
it's not redirecting money to different projects, it's just carrying it forward?
No, sir, just moving it forward.
Okay, thank you. Board members, are there questions?
Second.
Motion by Councilmember Maniscalco. I think I heard Commissioner Wastel second it first. I know we had a competition there, but are there questions or discussions of the motion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? No nays. Thank you, Ms. Simmons. Motion passes. Next item is annual certification of Metropolitan Transportation Planning Process, and Sarah Caper from our TPO staff will present. Welcome back.
Good morning. Thank you. Sarah Caper, TPO staff, presenting on the annual certification of the Metropolitan Transportation Planning Process. This may seem familiar to some of you because it's something we do every year. It's an annual process conducted with the TPO and the Florida Department of Transportation. It ensures that we comply with requirements. You might recall earlier this year, Federal Highway Administration was here to do our quadrennial certification. That's slightly different. You'll see that coming back to us later this year. This is focused on our review with FDOT, the Florida Department of Transportation. It is something that we do together. We provide them information on what we're doing, we have a discussion, and then they produce this report. And it includes 3 components: notable achievements, recommendations, and corrective actions. So to start with the notable achievements, you can see them here. We had 14 that were recognized by the Florida Department of Transportation. They range across different category areas, from safe access to parks, to the public awareness that we've been doing with the Transportation Improvement Program, to the work on the MPO merger study. There are 3 recommended actions this year. The first is to keep FDOT updated on organizational roles and responsibilities of key staff, so they know who's doing what from our team. The second is to continue to communicate challenges, questions, and concerns to FDOT liaison staff directly. They're our main point of contact at FDOT. And then the third is to continue to coordinate with local governments to ensure recommendations can be implemented. And this is really important to ensure that whatever we're recommending, the things that we're looking to continue are actually things that can be done and actionable items. And I'm happy to report we have no corrective actions. The recommended action this morning is to support the annual joint certification of the TPO and authorize the TPO chair to sign the joint certification statement. And I'm happy to take any questions.
Very good. Thank you, Ms. Caper. And I would assume that if there were issues between the TPO and DOT, that we would deal with those as they occur, and we wouldn't hear about them in this, this would be, by the time we got to here, we would have heard about this many times, I would assume.
Yeah, and I mean, just so for perspective, in a prior life, I was the government liaison administrator, which oversaw the MPOs, and Hillsborough's organization is traditionally always in good standing with the DOT as far as following process, delivering on time, things of that nature. So yeah, you would know about it. Actually, they would know about it at a very low level before I even knew about it or you knew about it, and they would resolve it if there was a communication issue or anything like that.
Very good. Thank you both. Board members, other questions? A motion by Councilmember Maniscalco and a second by Board Member Gray this time. And is there discussion of the motion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye. 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 Opposed? No nays. The resolution is adopted. Thank you. So before we move on to status reports, Mr. Hall, we all know Justin Hall from DOT has been here for a long time, but isn't this your first meeting as secretary?
It's technically my second, but it's my first one without David here with me. So my chaperone is gone. He's moved to North Carolina.
So you're certainly not new to this group, but I did want in your new capacity, I wanted to welcome you to the group in your new promotion. Congratulations.
Thanks, sir.
Okay, status reports. We have a detailed safety insights, and Connor Trejos McDonald, I think, is returning to explain.
Thank you, Board. Once again, I'm Connor Trejos McDonald. This time I'm here to present detailed safety insights. So a little bit of a background. The board requested more information following the performance measures in January on safety. And the request included crash trends and law enforcement, crash trends related to the density of the environment, a geographic analysis, days of the week and time of the day, relation to impaired driving, and rate of crashes that are fatal. So crash trends and law enforcement, just some more background. We meet with the CTST, the Hillsborough County, Hillsborough Community Traffic Safety Team. We've been meeting with them since 1991 with efforts on education and enforcement campaigns. Some other ongoing efforts include a recently reviewed standardized crash form, and we also have access to crash reports and citation data. So crash trends and law enforcement, as you see the comparison of speed citations and fatal and serious injury crashes, The number has remained steady but decreased in crashes in 2024, with citations increasing in 2024. So we did some analysis to find where there are locations with more crashes than citations. These are 1 mile areas, so there's about 1,300 mile areas that are included in the analysis. So these are pretty small areas, so that's why the numbers would be small. But one area, Ruskin, near East Shell Point Road and Interchange Street, there are 3 speed-related fatal or serious injury crashes and 1 citation. And this data is from 2020 to 2024, which is standard to our performance measures. The second location, US 301 and Bonita Drive near Little Manatee State Park, there were 2 crashes and 1 citation in this 1 mile area. In total, there were 411 speed-related crashes from 2020 to 2024 and 36,000 speed citations. So some more locations where crashes and speeding are most similar, so where locations where there are citations and crashes. One location is Boy Scout Boulevard and West Shore Boulevard, Nebraska Avenue and Fowler Avenue, and Dale Mabry Highway between Spruce Street and Columbus. And another location where crashes and speeding citations are least similar is I-4 near 50th Street. We also did some analysis on crash trends and density of the environment. You may or may not be familiar with context classification, but this is FDOT's graphic at the top. It explains the characteristics of the roadway from natural to urban core and also limited access facilities. So we did some analysis here. We found that crashes per mile, meaning related to the number of miles of the context classification, we found 29 fatal or serious injury crashes in urban general, but the percent of total crashes was highest in suburban commercial, and the total fatalities highest in suburban commercial as well. And some examples of these roadways are found on the last row, and these are not necessarily where those crashes are happening, but just common examples of those context classifications so you have an idea. So some geographic analysis on the crash locales. This is using Signal 4 network screening. So the top crash areas, according to the screening, include Old Big Bend Road, I-275 between Cypress and McDill, Lamona Road, and Lincoln Road. Some other crash trends as requested. The frequency of crashes by day of the week, they're mostly consistent with Friday being the highest at 17%. In the time of day, most of these fatal or serious injury crashes, again between 2020 and 2024, occur around 4 or 5 p.m. The percent of crashes related to impairment over the years, we have seen a decrease since 2021, and in 2024, 1.7%. Vehicle miles traveled, we saw the lowest in 2020, as you might imagine, with the COVID-19 pandemic, and a steady increase to the highest it's been in 2024. The rate of crashes that are fatal in 2021, we saw the highest, and we are decreasing towards 2024, and now we're at the same number as 2019. So comparing those, the VMT and rate of crashes that are fatal, you can see the VMT was lowest in 2020 again, a little bit higher in 2021, and that's where the rate of crashes were also the highest. So we kind of see that when VMT is lower, we see higher crash numbers. When VMT is higher, we see lower. So some TPO efforts, staff and the board continue to program and develop studies and plans on before and after infrastructure implementation analysis, high injury network identification, and other corridor studies, as you'll see later this year. We also include these numbers in the long-range transportation plan, the list of priority projects, and the transportation improvement program. So with that, I'll take any comments, questions, or further inquiries.
Thank you, Mr. McDonald. I have some comments, but I'll let the board members go first. So board members, any questions?
So is there,
Councilmember Clendon.
sorry. Is there a study or any correlation, because I know this, it kind of seemed intuitive, most of the data that you brought, of things that people who live in the city would kind of have guessed ahead of time. But the suburban commercial, I would have to think that it's the uncontrolled left turns in these densely suburban commercial areas where people are just randomly able to turn left across these lanes of traffic, or, you know, trying to dodge through lanes to get to something. Is there any kind of studies or something that correlates with that? Are these crashes related to left turns?
I'm unsure if there's any studies, but I can certainly pull numbers on the crash type, whether it's like side crashes or left turns. Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, just anecdotally, it just seems from my experience of seeing these things, I've never been involved in one, but I've driven past enough as a rubbernecker to see that that is a problem, and especially in these, like those roads you just described, you know, the Fowlers and the Fletchers and the Del Mabrys, you know, it's kind of crazy.
I will tell you, there is data. There's data to that, and a lot of times in the suburban commercial, you have the perfect storm of normally a little bit higher speed facility plus more access, ingress, and egress. And so we do access management studies pretty regularly to look at closing median openings, things of that nature, because you do see that. That's where you see a lot of those negative interactions, and they're normally at a higher speed.
Yeah, that's what I kind of guessed. Thanks.
Board Member Gray.
You're talking about correlations. Big Bend Road, which is now much wider than it was before, and Bonita Drive, where there is some traffic crashes. There's a tremendous amount of new housing and new residents who are probably not as familiar. Is there any correlation in that area which seems to be relevant to the crashes and possible fatalities? And why I'm asking that is, our children, East Bay and Eisenhower, crossing that Big Bend Road, which is mammoth. You know, later on, if it's appropriate, I would like to recommend a bridge for these kids to cross. But nonetheless, do you see any correlation with the new housing, apartments, 360-something apartments are now just about finished across from East Bay. In Apollo Beach, that area is growing.
Yes, so I don't have those numbers with me, but we certainly have the capabilities, especially as the TPO, as part of Plan Hillsborough with the Planning Commission. We certainly have information on where housing is going, changes in land use. I believe as part of that, just for your interest, when we review comprehensive plan amendments, we do include analysis on the transportation system as part of our comments from the TPO to the Planning Commission.
Thank you. Thank you.
Commissioner Bowles.
During the briefing, I had mentioned to Dr. Wong regarding some data on pedestrian fatalities, and I was wondering, do these numbers include, is it just hitting vehicle, or does that include the pedestrian fatalities? Because I know in an earlier meeting this year, we talked about what we would like to have as zero. I know, well, the reality is that's never going to be the case because of human nature. But have you been able to parse out those numbers? Are those available? Because I know it was a topic of conversation earlier this year, and that maybe it, would be interesting to have that as well. And are they clustered in certain particular areas? Is it like along Fletcher Avenue? We've thrown that one out there. I know that the county has done a lot of work to improve the walking lanes and to the crosswalks there with the flashing signals over the years. But are there other areas like school board member is talking about that we could improve or that need to be really kind of honed in on?
Absolutely. So I do have some information on the percent of crashes as they relates to mode. So 16% of these fatal or serious injury crashes were motorcycle crashes, 14% were pedestrian related, 7% were bike related, and 1% moped or scooter related. And to answer your question related to where these locations, where these crashes are happening, I'm unsure of that, but I can absolutely further research. And another point is that the county, I believe, is doing a before and after study of infrastructure implementation, so we'll absolutely be able to see what kind of projects are reducing these crashes.
Board members. So the last thing you mentioned, Mr. McDonald, is kind of what I wanted to comment on, So appreciate the presentation, and I appreciate the analysis. And I do think there's some interesting things in this, particularly if you look at the number of fatalities are fairly static, maybe even slightly down, but if you overlay that to the vehicle miles traveled, that really represents a significant decrease in fatalities related to the vehicle miles traveled. And so I think that's a sign, that's good news. I'm not really in favor, I hope, of this board like asking for studies for you to undertake just for the purpose of doing studies. So we go, well, that's cool. You know, I mean, that doesn't help. What I think we're looking for, or kind of what Commissioner Bowles was saying, is what have been the results of certain treatments that we've done on certain intersections or sections of road. For example, Fletcher Avenue, there was a significant amount of money invested in Fletcher Avenue to redesign the median and the crosswalks and put actual barriers so that people can't physically cross in certain locations. But some systematic analysis of the success of those investments, you know, and not just like, okay, we put a flashing beacon on one stretch of road. I mean, that's kind of micro analysis. I mean, like Fletcher Avenue would really be a good example because that's a whole stretch of road, has a significant number of issues. What impact did those treatments have? Another one that comes to mind, it's an intersection, is 56th and Fowler. DOT redesigned that intersection a few years ago, and obviously it's in my city, so I'm very familiar with the number of crashes there. And that has dramatically increased the safety of that. I mean, we had several pedestrian fatalities at that intersection, and I don't think we've had any since those treatments were done. And those were fairly inexpensive treatments. They weren't. That's really the actionable kind of stuff that I think we're looking for, a little more surgical, and because I'm not just looking for interesting things. That's interesting for its own sake, but actionable things that help us decide when we go to the TIPA process every year is like, you know, this project has, these treatments have been demonstrated to have a huge impact. Maybe we should elevate those types of things above. And I know staff does some of that before we get it, but that would help illuminate our discussion to say, look, I know this is newer on the table, but it's a higher value project based on what we know about other sections of road. And so I think that's what I think I'm getting some head nodding. Is that, I think that's the kind of analysis we're looking for that kind of leads us to actionable things. Doctor?
Mayor Russ, your point is very well taken, and just as a preview, so this year's TIP and LOP, we have been using the currently existing adopted methodology to evaluate safety projects. What I would like for my team to pursue is something that the DOT is already doing, and we've been working with them over the past couple months to learn more about their methodology, because there are certain grant opportunities that require a more sophisticated kind of safety analysis than what we do for the TIP and the LOP. When we're evaluating those projects, we get a large number of them, and we have a very short turnaround time. DOT, on the other hand, is developing the projects, and they go into a lot more rigorous analysis. But to capitalize on some of the grant opportunities that are awarded based on cost-benefit ratio of projects, we would like to identify what are the most common crash types, where are they located, what are the improvements that can impact or prevent those specific types of crashes, and then formulate a plan that has a positive cost-benefit analysis, capturing those grants while also being a lot more surgical. What I mean is, in our LOP methodology, we may give a high priority ranking to a project based on number of crashes that occur within a given mile. We don't often go into rigorous analysis to identify, are these a result of lack of crossing opportunities, like are they happening mid-block? Are they happening due to access management issues like too many curb cuts? We would just give them a high ranking. But if we get into that more sophisticated analysis, we can bring you a more surgical intervention So we would like to do that for this year and have it ready for next year's LOP hearing.
And I think it's important in this analysis to also be candid about what didn't work. Because as elected officials and public figures, everything we do is always 100% successful, right? We are never wrong. It's amazing. And so, but I think, we're spending public money, no matter what level of the government it comes from, it's still public money. And I think we have a duty to make sure that, okay, it's okay to say we spent this money based on the best science and the best analysis on this stretch of road, but it didn't do what we had hoped it was going to do. I mean, it had some impact, but it really didn't. Maybe that's not the best. We have to hear that if that's the case, because, I know we all want to look good, but this is public money. We have to go with what the real data shows is effective. And I mean, for one, if we do things in good faith and it doesn't work out the way we thought it would, let's not keep doing it just to save face. Let's do something different. So anyway, thank you for that. Thank you, Mr. McDonald. Okay, next up is a regional MPO merger study update from Ms. Sarah Caper is back again. Welcome back.
Thank you. Sarah Caper, TPO staff, and I will be providing you with an update on where we are with the regional MPO merger study. In February, we released a request for proposals to get consultant support for this effort. We also approved the agreement with the Florida Department of Transportation at your February meeting to accept the $500,000 in funding for that study. In March, we received 4 proposals. The selection committee, which was composed of the executive directors of the Hillsborough, Pinellas, and Pasco MPOs, met in April. They reviewed the 4 proposals we received. We had interviews with the top 3 firms. After that interview process, the selection committee met again and decided on a recommendation of a ranking of 2 top firms, the first being White House Group and the second being Public Works. We'll be presenting this recommendation to the TMA leadership group at their meeting in May, and then we'll be coming back to you in June for your action. In June, we'll be asking you to allow us to proceed with negotiations, and then we would come back to you later this summer with a negotiated agreement to proceed. I also wanted to highlight for you that we've created quarterly progress reports. These are available on our website and the Suncoast Transportation Alliance website. We plan on doing these every quarter. They talk about what we did in the past quarter, the things that we're working on right now, and then what's upcoming, to provide transparency about where we are in the process and what's coming next. And with that, I'm available to take any questions that you may have.
Thank you, Ms. Caper. Board members, are there questions? I don't see any. Thank you.
Thank you.
Executive Director's Report. Dr. Wong.
Thank you, Board. I'll start by saying that tomorrow we have a guided tour scheduled. Several of you requested an opportunity to tour the Hillsborough County Traffic Management Center to learn more about traffic operations, how the signalization works, and how first response vehicles are given priority. So we've made arrangements. We're expecting that the tour will last around 90 minutes, but the staff of the TMC is available for up to 2. So if you're having a great time, you can walk around and continue to ask questions even after the rest of us break. It's 90 minutes long, so please remember to wear comfy shoes. This Saturday, moving on, this Saturday, the MPOAC is hosting a weekend institute, which is MPO training provided to board members. Agency staff were invited as well. On Friday evening, there will be a networking event at the Airport Embassy Suites Bay Cafe beginning at 6 p.m. That'll be a chance for all of you to go and connect with other board members from across the state and talk shop. I'll be presenting at the Institute on Saturday morning. Moving on, the TMA and SCTPA will meet on May 23rd at PSTA headquarters in Pinellas. TPO staff will be providing updates on the merger study procurement, just like you, the update that you received from Sarah just a moment ago. We'll also be giving presentations on the regional long-range plan and our Bright Line study. The TMA begins at 9:30 and SCTPA at 10:30. One quick note on the Bright Line survey. I'm sure many, if not all of you, have seen it. It think it's attracted a lot of media attention. There's a strong public interest in providing that kind of service from Tampa out to Orlando and back. As of this morning, we have captured more than 7,000 surveys, and that survey's been live for just about a week. So I think we're gunning to break a state record there. After tomorrow's TMC tour, our next meeting will be the TIP hearing on June 11th, beginning at 6 p.m. You'll see our priority list and our draft TIP. Those have already been made available for public review. A couple of you have requested an opportunity to see those ahead of the regularly scheduled agenda mail-out. If you want to pore over the details, we'll send you a copy as soon as we break from this meeting, and that'll give you about a month to review it before you're asked to take action. My team's also going to get in touch with you to get your food and drink orders for that evening. So stay on the lookout for an email from Cheryl Wilkening. And then I'll close out by giving an update on the legislative session, which ended about 2 weeks ago, and there were a couple bills floating around that had impacts on the MPO. I'll start first with what did not pass. The MPOAC repeal bill failed, which was something that we were tracking very closely. Again, that's a coordination mechanism for MPOs across the state and their board members to get together and exchange best practices. I know that I found a lot of value in attending those meetings. What did pass was HB 85, hazardous walking conditions, revises the criteria for conditions that constitute a hazardous walking condition. It expands the criteria to include walkways that are located along limited access facilities. Broadening the criteria means that on the one hand, we will have a more comprehensive list of facilities that create hazards. On the other hand, TPO staff participate in these reviews. We're anticipating that we'll have to spend quite a bit more staff time to do those evals. Not a bad thing, somewhat neutral. SB 1662 repeals language in state statute about high occupancy vehicle lanes that reflects a national trend of moving away from HOV lanes toward a more management policy approach. And under the banner of managed lanes, you have a number of tools or policies rather, including static, dynamic tolling, HOV included, bus only. There are a number of different ways that you can manage those lanes, but the provision with language about HOV has been repealed. And I'll close out with SB 462, otherwise known as the MPO bill, which has a number of provisions that affect the MPO and local governments' transportation planning. I'll begin with after July 2025, no additional MPOs may be designated in Florida except in UZAs that are designated after the 2020 census. So any existing urbanized area that grows can no longer branch off to create a separate MPO to manage that. It would have to be a UZA that essentially comes out of a non-urbanized area. At least annually, MPOs across the state will be convened by DOT to exchange best practices with one another. FDOT will provide training for new MPO board members. FDOT will work with MPOs to establish performance metrics and targets such as safety, infrastructure condition, congestion relief, and mobility. You all know this because we bring you these targets either every year or every 4 years. These targets are a federal requirement. This new bill enshrines them in state statute as well. In addition to coordinating with FDOT to create and track those metrics, they also have to be shared on a website for public transparency. Regarding our long-range plans, LRTPs may now include enhancements necessary to facilitate advanced air mobility, i.e. drone transportation, e-bikes, scooters, and other micro-mobility options. Those are modes that were not included in any of our LRTPs to date, so for the 2055 plan, that'll be a component of it. And the last important addition in the bill is that FDOT will produce a report on the I-4 segment between US 27 out in Polk County and I-75 in Hillsborough. That segment's intended to be widened, so that report will have to be delivered to the legislature by the end of 2025 and include cost estimates, a work schedule, identifying right-of-way to be acquired. Of course, that's going to be a major project that will impact the entire state, but acutely, it'll impact Hillsborough and Polk County. So we'll be looking forward to that, and that's all from me unless there are any questions.
Sorry about that. The MPOAC scheduled a training for Saturday morning. I don't know the history of this. Do they typically do Saturdays for this because that's the consensus of the people that attend? They prefer it on Saturdays?
Mayor, I'm not entirely certain if that's the tradition or not. I will say that hosting it on a Saturday and having it be a day-long training made it really difficult to find members that did not have a conflict. Just about everyone who responded to the request said that they had something going on, which is not a big deal. We will have representation, so instead of board members, I'm sending a couple staff, and like I mentioned, I'll also be there to give opening remarks and kind of help the MPOAC educator work through the examples with local, work through the materials with local examples.
Right.
So we will definitely have a presence at that training.
But my primary concern isn't so much that we have a presence, although that's important too. The other thing is I'm looking around the room, and I can't speak for everybody, but, we all have pretty busy schedules, and to be frank, we're not crazy about giving up a Saturday to go to another work day but it's a shame because I think some of us would benefit from attending these kinds of things and maybe would attend them if they weren't, I'm speaking for the group, which I know is not my place, but, really, we have to give up a Saturday in order to take advantage of this when I think if it were available during business hours, a lot of us might take advantage of it.
I begrudgingly committed to attend to represent the MPO. I will ask if in the future it's possible to schedule that during the week, but that being said, with the MPO bill passing requires FDOT to offer that training. I
Right.
suspect that they will not host it on the weekend moving forward. I can't say for sure. but
I
we'll
suspect
pass
you,
that
I
comment along
suspect
to
you
them.
might be right. Okay, thank you. Any other questions? Councilmember Clendenin.
I have a question about Tallahassee, and other than these internal things that were happening in Orange and Seminole County with Brightline in the last few months, was there any discussions in Tallahassee between the legislature, the governor, about advancing Brightline's agenda and the right-of-way and all the issues that we've had?
I can't speak to that specifically, but I will say that part of the I-4 project that will be included in this report, one component of that is preserving the right-of-way and the median for the Brightline train. So as the I-4 project is delivered, they'll have to do site mediation to ensure that it can handle the weight of the vehicles. So while I can't say that there have been conversations about Brightline specifically, the I-4 is kind of like the Trojan horse for the Brightline project. And forgive that metaphor because that was really poor.
Other questions for Dr. Wong? Okay, seeing none, old and new business. Any carryover business or new business, board members? Commissioner Wastell.
Just wanted to acknowledge Secretary Hall's staff on their expert execution of your mom said to obey the speed limit over Mother's Day.
Yeah, that
Thank
was
you.
good. That was good. Any other old or new business, board members? If not, is there a motion to adjourn?
Second.
Motion is second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? We are adjourned. Thank you.